Hello and welcome. I'm Disha Philyaw. I am the author of a collection of short stories called The Secret Lives of Church Ladies. And I'm here today talking with Sunny Hostin. If you don't know, Sunny is a three-time Emmy Award winning co-host of The View. She's also a journalist and an attorney. And her debut work is a national best-selling memoir called I Am These Truths. But this evening, we're here to talk about her debut novel, Summer on the Bluffs, which I have here, which is a New York Times bestseller. This is a novel set on the historic African-American community of Oak Bluffs on Martha's Vineyard. And it focuses on the lives of a woman named Amelia Vo Tanner and her three goddaughters, Billy, Perry, and Olivia. And we're going to talk a lot more about them with Sunny. So welcome, Sunny.
Hello, I hope I did that right. I'm on now.
There you go.
I am thrilled to be here with you, Disha. As I mentioned, I absolutely love your work. I love
Thank you.
Lives of Church Ladies. I know you've won several awards for it, including the Penn Faulkner Award for Fiction. And so I know it's being turned into a television or film. And I do have my own production company now. So in the event that
Noted.
I'm your plan B.
All right, noted. Duly noted. Thank you so much. Well, congratulations to you on this New York Times bestseller. I'm really honored to be here to talk with you about this book. It is absolutely wonderful. Somebody was asking me about, the book today, and I said, it's a beach read, but it's also complex, and it's about family and love and history and secrets, and I could just go on and on. It's full of history and culture and pop culture, which I really got into, music and food. It was just a delight to read. And I was laughing and then crying on the same page sometimes. And ma'am, there's some moments that are downright steamy. So I was like, wait a minute, I wasn't ready. And it was just really.
Joy Behar likes to bring that up a lot.
Yes, really, a fun read with many, many layers. I was immediately drawn into Amma's world. The main character's name is Amelia, as I mentioned, but she goes by Amma, and the world of her goddaughters. We get to know these characters so intimately, and as well as where they come together in the summer at Oak Bluffs, and they're very complicated lives. So I want to talk about all of that. I want to talk about the story. I also want to talk about this book from a writer perspective. So we're going to get into all of that. And for everybody who's joining us, you can put your questions in using the Q&A function, which is at the bottom of your screen. And after our conversation, I'm going to take a look at some of those questions, and hopefully we can get to some. And some folks send in questions for you, Sunny, already. So we've got even more questions for you, but I get to go first. So I'm really happy about that. What I want to talk about first is just sort of how the story came about. Some writers, it starts with the character. Some writers starts with the story. Where did it start for you?
It started for me, believe it or not, with the house.
Oh.
I'm really intrigued by the notion of home and sanctuary.
Yes.
And what that means. And Oak Bluffs is a place where I actually summer every summer. And it's a special place for me. It's kind of my happy place. And it's become a happy place for my children. And we've been renting the same house there for many, many years. I at one point thought they would sell it, but they're not. Okay. They love it just as much as I do. And so I go on this walk every day. It's about a 7-mile walk in an area of Oak Bluffs. And I keep on walking past the same house. And I sort of just started making up the story of the inhabitants of the home. And I walk with my husband, and I said to him one day, I think somebody's going to give me that house one day. And he's like, nobody's going to give you that house.
Hope springs eternal.
And I would take pictures in front of the home, and it sort of revolved around that and the notion that there were only a few places that African Americans were allowed, right, to buy property, and a beachfront property, and Oak Bluffs was one of those places. And I learned that after reading my good friend Larry Graham's book, Our Kind of People.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it all of a sudden just took this shape on, like, well, what is
Mhm.
home? Maybe someone would give that house to someone. What is
Mhm.
that sanctuary? And what do you inherit with a home?
Mhm.
You inherit its history. Do you inherit
Yes.
its secrets? And I just sort of started building this world in my
Mhm.
head of the people that lived in this home that I loved.
Yes.
And that was kind of the inspiration. A lot of people have asked me, like, who is the main character? The main character is the house.
Yes.
The
Yes.
main
It
character.
absolutely. It absolutely feels like its own character.
Yeah, it is.
So with the house sort of at the epicenter of it all, but we also know the story is a bit sprawling. It's also encompasses New York City. It encompasses several decades, and there are multiple love stories happening. The good, the bad, the messy, sometimes all three. So reading these stories conjured up a lot of feelings for me. As I mentioned, I got a little teary eyed. I got wistful, and then others had me kind of shaking my head in laughter and recognition. There's just a lot of wonderful commentary on what it takes to be in love, whether it's familial love, whether it's romantic love, how those things kind of ebb and flow. But there are multiple love relationships. How did you juggle all of that from a craft perspective? I felt like nobody got shortchanged in this novel. No, nobody. Every relationship had such depth, and you wrote it with such care and such attention to detail. How'd you do that?
Oh, and thank you for saying that, because
Mhm.
I don't quite feel that I got it right,
Yeah.
actually. I self-flagellate a lot. So I'm my own worst critic.
Hmm.
Uh, but I sort of felt like I could have done a better job of actually weaving them together. In
Hmm.
my mind, love is at the center of everything, right?
Hmm.
Not to sound kind of corny, but it really is. Our love of our family, our
Hmm.
friends, ourselves, right?
Yes. Yes.
Children. I think it's sort of at the center of everything. And I write in the book about how we spend so much time trying to find out about love, and who we're
Mhm.
gonna love, and then we spend so much time finding out how to do it. And then
Yes.
before we know it, it's kind of
It's
too late.
right. Time's up.
Time is up. And we have to learn how to let our loved ones go as well. It's sort of
Hmm.
a cycle of life. And so for me, I wanted to explore relationships, because
Hmm.
it's meant to be a light read. It's meant to be
Hmm.
a beach read, because I wanted to write what I wanted to read, because I couldn't find
Yes.
anything that was kind of light. But if we're exploring the lives of Black folks, I think that has to be nuanced, and it has to be
Yes.
complicated. And at its center is our love, I think, for each other,
Hmm.
our family, sometimes issues with self care.
Yeah.
And I try to really explore it in different places. So I try to explore the love of friends,
Hmm.
of chosen family,
Hmm.
of a married couple, because I
Hmm.
feel like that kind of Black love isn't celebrated enough
That's
or
right.
understood enough.
That's right.
I mean, I've been married 23 years. I know what Black love looks like.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I know what
Yeah.
Black love looks like, right? I know what that
Mhm.
looks like. And so I know what the love looks like between a father and a daughter. My father's been living with me for the past year, and we're closer than we've ever been. And
Mhm.
so I wanted to show that love as well. I wanted to show the brotherhood between men. I thought
Mhm.
that was important. And I'm glad that you felt that I didn't give anything short shrift, because that was super important to me. And also the love between friends,
Yes.
because I mean, I'm an only child, but my,
Mhm.
my girlfriends are really my sister friends. They are the
Mhm.
sisters that, some of them that I never looked for, and some of them that I chose. So
Mhm.
I think when you are centering a story on Black women,
Yes.
and our lives and the real challenges that we face in these United States, you have to explore those relationships.
And speaking of Black women and who we are, there's so many things I love about this book, but one thing in particular was that you show us through these characters that Black women are not a monolith.
Yes.
They are so varied in terms of their temperaments, their interests, their talents, their concerns, what they do for a living, their perspectives on the world. And and again, it's all fleshed out. There's no character that I felt like, oh, she's secondary. You treat them all with a lot of love and care. And I get, I couldn't pick a favorite character because I'm going to ask you about your favorite character, and I thought, well, I should have a favorite, and I was like, I can't pick. I cannot pick. And then I learned a lot too. You taught us about sustainability and art history, and just so many fascinating things. So I wondered about the degree to which you did research to inform the stories.
Yeah, I am at my heart a historian. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I read. I'm a voracious reader of
Mm-hmm.
nonfiction,
Mm-hmm.
especially of African American history, because I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
in school, so I'm
Yeah.
self-taught in that sense. Waiting for the 1619 project to come out so I can
Yes.
more.
Yes.
And so yes, I research everything, much to my editor's chagrin, I think. I want to, it may be my legal training as well. I was a federal prosecutor, and you've got to get it right when you're in a position of power like that.
Yeah.
So I researched everything. I researched things about Oak Bluffs that I wanted to make sure I got right. I
Mm-hmm.
researched things about Black art, but I collect Black art, so I sort of knew about that. I wanted to really for the story to be aspirational in terms of
Yes.
yeah, I want it to be aspirational in terms of what would a woman like Amma collect. She's self-made,
Mm-hmm.
but she's not really new money, right? She's grand
Right.
and she's elegant. And what
Yes.
would someone like that collect? Well, she would collect fine Black art. She
Mm-hmm.
some of them would listen to a French Black artist like that.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to him.
Mm-hmm.
I want, she would write a letter on Mrs. John L. Strong.
I had to Google. I had to Google that detail. I was like, what's that?
But she would write a note on that, an important note
Mm-hmm.
on that. She would be a beekeeper because she's interested in sustainability. I will say some of that came from my own life. I'm a beekeeper, right?
Mm-hmm.
I garden. Those things. I have my bee necklace on. Those things are very important to me in terms, because if the bees die, we die too.
That's
And
right.
I just thought that it was really important to explore what the world of Black excellence
Mm-hmm.
looks like. And
Mm-hmm.
I did do a significant amount of research and changed a lot as I gained more and more knowledge.
Mm-hmm. And that was a question I had for later, but let's talk about that now. How did writing this book change you as a person and as a writer?
Oh, it was it's very different from writing a memoir.
Okay.
um, my memoir um, came easily because you're just telling the story of your own life. And,
Mm-hmm.
but it was painful because my story is one of poverty, growing up in the South Bronx projects, and addiction in my family, people going to jail. It wasn't sort of a crystal staircase.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
so, and I talked about specific uh, instances where I experienced certain things like racism,
Mm-hmm.
uh, like sexism, and I also, called out some famous friends, like
Mm-hmm.
Don Lemon, Anna Navarro, and I was a little worried about how it would be received. This was very different. This was a world I created
Yes.
on my own.
The puppet master.
I was a puppet master. I could change things. I had full control over it. And it was just a really pleasant experience, for lack of a
Mm-hmm.
better word, lack of a better term. I think that I learned as a result of writing the book um, how to create, um,
Mm-hmm.
how to create a new world, how
Mm-hmm.
to speak through characters. One thing, I called my editor one day, I was almost at the end, and I said, I'm freaking myself out. I'm at home and I'm having conversations with these people in my head. And like, I'm like, yeah, Amma, that's right. How dare they? And they're questioning you as a mother,
Right.
being the mother you can be. And I'm like having these conversations with myself. And I actually had to call her because I was like, I'm feeling like weird. And she said, no, you've become a writer.
Yeah.
You,
Yeah.
your characters are real to you because they were
Yes.
real to me. I could see their faces. I can
Yes.
see their faces. And I think that's how it changed me. I think writing the memoir was okay. I wrote my memoir, but
Mhm.
this I felt made me a writer. It made me a
Mhm.
creative in a way
Mhm.
that I had never experienced before.
Mhm. Okay. And you just mentioned a couple of isms, and I want to mention another ism that you explore in the novel, and that's colorism, which we know is very painful within our community. And what sort of led you to bring that into the storyline?
Yeah, that comes from my uh, relationship with my oldest and dearest friend, Kathleen.
Mm-hmm.
Kathleen is from Haiti. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
we've been friends since we were 16. Whew. So we're talking about, almost 40 years of friendship.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when we were maybe 18, we actually were at the vineyard together. She was sitting in the sun, and I was like, you need sunscreen. And she's
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm dark. I don't need sunscreen. I was like, yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
do. You're going to
Yeah.
get cancer, skin cancer. And I said, your skin is so beautiful and it's provided you some natural protection, but like, you don't want to screw your looks up. And she told me a couple of years later that I was the first person that had told her that her skin was beautiful. Her
Mm.
skin was beautiful. And I was, and we're like night and day. I'm fair and she isn't. And
Mm-hmm.
I always saw she's much prettier than I am. And she kind of
Mm.
looks like Naomi Campbell. And we talked about the fact that when we go out, I get all the attention,
Mm-hmm.
which is fascinating because she's prettier than I am.
Yeah.
So like, I never really um, took notice of it. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest with you, I just didn't. And she found that to be painful. That
Yeah.
I didn't even notice it. And so it's a long standing discussion that we've had. And
Mm-hmm.
when I was writing the book, I actually called her and I said, I I want to talk about what we talk
Mm-hmm.
about, and this
Yeah.
character, in many respects, is going to be based on you. Are you cool with that? And she was like, I'm so cool with it.
Mm-hmm.
People got to talk about it. It's a huge
Yeah.
problem in Haiti, but it's a huge problem here in the
That's
United
right.
States. And we don't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's caused her a lot of pain, actually, in her life. You've got this beautiful, successful woman that feels unseen,
Right.
doesn't feel beautiful. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought, that's despicable.
Right.
Um, and I'm going to explore it. And
Mm-hmm.
hopefully, my hope was, and after meeting with so many book clubs, I think I've met with maybe over 20 book clubs to talk about
Mm-hmm.
the book. Every invitation I get, I take because I want to hear the feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it's one of the first things that comes up.
Yeah.
Thank me for exploring it. And I wanted it to become a conversation that we aren't afraid about. And it's something that happens in the Latino community a
Right.
lot.
Yeah.
And it's not talked about.
And I love that you didn't handle it in a simple way. Like it didn't get, there's no real resolution, but the two God sisters both said their piece and understood each other better, but the issue is still there, just like it continues to stay with us, decade after decade, generation after generation. Um, when you were writing this book, did you have a particular audience in mind?
I did.
Okay.
I did. Toni Morrison said if there's a book you want to read and it hasn't been written yet, then you should write it.
Mm-hmm.
For me, because I cover so many social justice stories,
Mm-hmm.
when I am covering those, I really need a getaway. I need to move away from that work because it can be really dark
Mm-hmm.
covering it for like 15 years. So
Yeah.
I would go to the bookstores and I couldn't find anything centered on Black women.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't find it. And I mean, you can read Waiting to Exhale. You can read The Secret Lives of Church Ladies. You can find it, but not enough.
Not nearly enough.
Not nearly enough. And then I also thought, like, I hadn't seen this kind of thing. I had read the Basketball Diaries by Tanya Lewis and Crystal
Mm-hmm.
McRae. And I thought that was fun and
Mm-hmm.
it was great. But this notion of Black excellence and generational wealth in family
Mm-hmm.
and chosen family, I hadn't seen it. And I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to center the story on Black women. And I thought that would be the audience. And
Yes.
I will tell you, I think a lot of people underestimated this book. I don't think that people were in the publishing industry
Mm-hmm.
are aware that we have book clubs.
That's
Um,
right. Let's come on, tell it.
I'm in
Tell
the
it.
ABA. We got our ABA book club. We got chapters all over the world. We've
Mm-hmm.
got our Links book club. We've got our Jack and Jill book club. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
this is a way for us to fellowship.
That's
We
right.
were not allowed to read for so long that we read
Mm-hmm.
a lot.
Yes.
Black women are the most educated demographic in our country. The
That's
most,
right.
let me say it again, the most educated demographic in our country. We have more degrees than any other demographic. And so I knew there was an audience for this.
Mm-hmm.
It's built in, it's baked in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think the surprise came when the first week of this book sold 25,000 copies. I
Mm-hmm.
think people were like, who the hell's reading the book? I'm like, the Black women that want the book.
Exactly. Exactly. We are hungry to see ourselves. And I say ourselves as someone who, I'm going to Martha's Vineyard for the first time next week.
Oh, yeah.
I leave right before you come. So we're gonna miss each
Oh,
other.
I'm so excited
Um,
for you. You're
but
gonna love it.
so that's an experience that's not my personal experience, but I am hungry to see the variety of us, the plethora of who we are, our diversity in stories, and so that was, what part of the excitement was for me. And just like Billy and Olivia and Perry, just like they thought they knew Amma. I thought I knew Amma, and she just surprised me, chapter after chapter after chapter. And so I think that that's going to be a pleasant surprise for a lot of people too, because you might immediately think Our Kind of People, that's a book that a lot of us read, back in the day. And then there's just, more and more and more. So thank you for providing this richness.
Thank you.
Keep an eye on the time because I want to have other people. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Everything in the book is authentic. And so when you
Mm-hmm.
go to the vineyard, you can visit all the places that I've written about. So
I was taking notes.
doing that.
I was like, I'm going there and I'm having drinks there. Absolutely. So I said I was going to ask this. Do you have a favorite character, or a favorite that you was the favorite to write?
Yeah, I do. And it wasn't, it wasn't what I expected. As I mentioned, for me, it's about the home. I love
Mm-hmm.
decorating. I love watching HDTV. I love watching all the makeovers. And so for me, that was where I thought my favorite character resided, right? Talking
Mm-hmm.
about Oak Bluffs, writing about Oak Bluffs, writing about this chateau. But as I started writing about, and I also thought Perry was going to be the protagonist, actually, as I
Yeah.
started writing, um, in large part because she's Afro Latina, she's married to a doctor, she's a lawyer. I knew Perry going
Mm-hmm.
in. I saw myself in Perry. I knew how to write that. But I started realizing probably by chapter, I don't know, maybe 100 pages in,
Mm-hmm.
everybody needs a godmother like Amma.
I
Amma is,
want one.
I want one too. I was like, Amma is who we all are in
Mhm.
different phases of our lives. And she's so unapologetic about the choices
Yes.
she makes.
Yes.
And some of them are not conventional choices. Most of them
Mm-hmm.
are not actually.
Most aren't.
And
That's
they're
right.
unpopular.
Mm-hmm.
She's not the type of mother I am. She's very different in terms of the choices she's made to mother. And I just thought, I love her. I love
Mm-hmm.
her complexity. And
Mm-hmm.
after page 100, I think she became the center of the story, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't what I expected at all. And she's now my favorite character. I think she's
Yeah.
incredible.
I think we need more unapologetic Black women characters. doing things that disappoint other people.
Yes, yes.
And really having that agency. And I'm thinking about, even though they're generations apart, Alma and, say, Simone Biles, like the
Yes,
fact that she did what she did for herself.
for herself, and to thine own self be true. I mean,
Hmm.
if you're no good, no one is good. No
That's
one can
right.
be around you,
Hmm.
especially in a role as caretaker. She's caretaker
Hmm.
for many people.
That's right.
And I just thought, I've made decisions that are unpopular. You don't become successful without making decisions that are unpopular,
That's right. That's right.
and that people question. And I thought, yes, she has the agency. That was actually the word that I had on a sticky. I have a sticky thing,
Hmm.
and I have them all over my computer, kind of like Gabby and being Mary Jane. And I just thought, yeah, yeah, she writes her own rules and is
Hmm.
successful still.
Yes.
I love her. I just
Yeah.
I want to keep on writing about her.
Did you, in the similar vein, did you have a favorite chapter or scene, or one that was like super hard, really hard to nail?
Well, the sex scenes were really hard for me. I'm like this like Catholic, repressed Catholic, um, angry with the church and all that stuff. Um, and I just like nice Catholic girls don't write sex scenes, right? And
Right.
so my editor, Carrie Farron, who's just she's the best of the best. She's the senior
Hmm.
editor at HarperCollins. She's like, I love the pages. Where's the sex? I was like, there's no sex. She's like, it's a beach read. There's sex.
They got to get it on. Well, let me tell you, you rallied. You did the thing.
There's sex. That was very difficult for me to write.
Mhm.
Actually, I blush when I read it now, and especially when I listen to it. Actually,
Right.
my audible, who January did a great job narrating it, but I was like
Mhm.
horrified listening to it. My husband,
Yeah.
good book. And he loved it. He's like, yeah. But the other part that I took great care with was the description of the men in the book.
Hmm.
I just felt that it was. I'm just so tired of looking and reading about Black men as a monolith.
Right.
Black men that are in jail, Black men that are victims of their circumstances and, doing all these things. And I just thought our men are so complex.
Hmm.
Many of them are suffering from PTSD, quite frankly. And,
Hmm.
um, I am surrounded by strong, Black, beautiful men. My
Hmm.
husband has been my partner for really 25 years. And
Hmm.
the guy who, when I left my law practice to try out this TV thing, said, I can hold it down for about 3 years. I have 3 years worth of savings. I mean, that's the kind of
Yeah.
partner that I'm married
Yeah.
to. My
Hmm.
father sacrificed everything so that I could have a better life.
Hmm.
And he had me at 19. So
Hmm.
I was thinking, I've got to really show
Yeah.
the world,
Yes.
the full picture of these Black men, and Omar in particular, Carter also actually, but
Yeah, I like Carter.
I love Carter.
I
Carter's
want to meet Carter.
based on my dad. Actually, my dad meditates and practices yoga and plays the flute. Um,
Hmm.
he's a Carter. He's a
Hmm.
free spirit. He swims every day. He loves the water. He boats. That's my dad. And but Omar is based in large part for my husband, who
Hmm.
is happy that he's an introvert, doesn't want the limelight. I got to drag him to the Emmys every year. He has no interest in doing anything like that. But what I loved about where Omar came from is that his family came first, his
Yeah.
woman came first.
Hmm.
Downfall, it was the need for acceptance of his white male colleagues.
Yes.
And how many times don't our men struggle with that?
Yeah.
And I took great care uh, in the describing the men
Hmm.
in the book. I thought it was very important to do.
Yeah. And it showed. Thank you. So I'm going to share some questions from our audience.
Okay.
First, what is there going to be a sequel? Someone wants to know if there's going to be a sequel.
Well, I'm proud to say that HarperCollins was crazy enough to give me a 3-book deal. So
Okay.
this is a trilogy, and
Oh,
I have
wonderful.
I have it in front of me. I'm about 150 pages into Summer on Sag Harbor, which is a
Oh,
historically Black beachfront community. And the third book is going to take place on Highland Beach, which is a
okay.
beachfront community in Maryland. Um,
Okay.
and that is the sort of the world of the Summer Beach series right now.
Right.
And
And both of those are mentioned in Summer on the Bluffs.
yes,
Yeah.
intentionally.
Okay. I caught that. Okay. Um, then someone wanted to know, how did you decide what the secrets were going to be? And I think this is a great question because I couldn't guess it. I couldn't guess. I was so off.
Well, it's interesting. I think we are our families, all of our families, are filled with secrets.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom, who is sober now, I don't know, maybe 40 years,
Mm-hmm.
always tells me in the rooms of AA, they say we are as sick as our secrets. We are sick
Yes.
as our secrets. And in writing this, I'm not outing her. She speaks around the country
Mm-hmm.
about her addiction. Um, I just remember thinking about that. We are as sick as our secrets. We are as sick as
Mm-hmm.
our secrets. And so early on in writing, I gave each character a secret.
Mm-hmm.
Amma really has the most secrets, right? She's really
She got all the secrets. My goodness.
she's really complex. And I felt like Amma is as sick as her secrets.
Mm-hmm.
And when she had to, you know, start anew, she knew that releasing those secrets was not only the release of her sickness, but the release of her children's sicknesses as
Yes.
well. And
Yeah.
and so I started the book with the secrets, and
Mm-hmm.
I backed into it, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I backed into that. Yeah, that was important to
Okay. So now we've got some aspiring writers who have questions for you. How do you go about getting an agent and a publisher
me.
and a publishing deal? I think that was the question.
Yeah, that's important. I certainly came at it from a really different place, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure I didn't come at it from where you came at it, Disha,
Yeah.
or other people. I had the platform of the view,
Mm-hmm.
and I think what a lot of publishers are looking for is that built-in platform.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I say on the View, here's my debut novel,
It's gonna,
I've got 3 million viewers, right?
right.
A lot hate me, but some love me. And
Mm-hmm.
so those are people that will say, well, maybe I'll check that out. Maybe I'll read that. And so for me, when my agent, my television agent sort of came to me and said, do you write? And I was like, oh gosh, I write all the time. I have all these cockamamie ideas about fantasy worlds. And because I've journaled since I was about 12.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I got a lot of stories. I'm a griot. You don't know that. Let's add somebody to your team. And they added Mel Berger, who is an incredible book agent who
Mm-hmm.
repped Al Roker and other
Mm-hmm.
authors. So for me, it was he had the relationships, and
Mm-hmm.
I came to him with this kind of idea, which was, I'm so tired of going to the airport and I can't find anything I want to read. I want to read this.
This.
And he was like, write an outline. How about that? And I was like, I got an outline. And you know,
Now what?
and really we were meeting with HarperCollins and other houses probably within a week.
Mm-hmm.
That's a different thing. But I will say this, after the success of this book, and I'm sure after the success of yours, what I have now learned is that a place like HarperCollins has someone specifically assigned to accepting proposals from Black writers,
Mm-hmm.
Black female writers as well, in particular, because we're only 5% of the fiction market, 5%. Yet we
Mm-hmm.
are billion-dollar buyers.
That's right.
To say it again, billion-dollar buyers.
$1 billion.
And that's something that I hope comes out of the success of this book and the trilogy. I really think there is an opportunity that we have not had. So my suggestion is write the proposal, maybe even write the first couple chapters
Mm-hmm.
and send it out to book agents.
Mm-hmm.
Send it out to book agents. My book agent for my memoir, his name is Ryan. He's gonna be like, no, you didn't. Ryan Fisher Harbash, and he has his own literary agency, and he takes chances on people.
Mm-hmm.
I stuck with him, even though I'm with WME. I stuck with him to do my memoir because he believed in me when no one else did. I've been
That's
writing
right.
for a really long time, and um, you know, he's someone that takes chances on unknowns. I wasn't on television when I started writing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, my advice is write and
Mm-hmm.
send it out. And I know a lot of people self-publish now. I don't know what that world looks like, but I
Mm-hmm.
read books that are self-published.
Mm-hmm.
I download ebooks, Audible, that are self-published, or that are from unknown authors. I just downloaded a book, something about salt, the Salt Road by a Haitian author that I think is only in ebook form, just because it kind of piqued my interest. So there's
Mm-hmm.
a market out there for us.
Mm-hmm. And in a similar vein, for writers who are working but just can't seem to finish,
Oh,
what advice do you have for them?
oh, I know because I'm behind right now on Summer on Sag Harbor, the second book, and I'm actually writing another book that I am behind on.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't even given the outline to Carrie, and she's like, "Where's the book?" Um, you know what I do? I think in order to finish it, you have to make an appointment with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you do that, Disha, but what I do is my life is kind of chaotic actually and hectic. You know, I've got 3 dogs and I've got 12 chickens and I've got a husband and I've got 2 kids and my kids ready to go to college in the
Mm-hmm.
fall. And the only quiet time I have, I've realized, is between like 11 and 2 or 11
Mm-hmm.
and 1. My husband goes to bed early because he's a surgeon and he gets up early. I don't know why he's such a morning person. It drives me crazy. Like, in the morning, he's like, "Hey, how'd you sleep?" I'm like, "Oh,
Like,
sleeping." But I write then. I make an
mm-hmm.
appointment with myself, and I don't care what I'm doing. I don't care what I'm streaming. I don't care if I'm watching this or watching that. I shut everything down, and I come in actually into this office that has no blinds, as you see, because of the light. And I write, and I just
Mm-hmm.
force myself to do it. Just like sometimes you have to force yourself to work out, or
Yeah.
and you feel better after you do it.
After you do it, yeah.
You feel great. And you try to write through the writer's block. And for me, if I sit down for 2 hours and I only write, 3 pages, I still feel like I've done something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's how you finish. I
Yeah.
really do. You have to make an appointment to finish,
Mm-hmm.
just like everything else in life. Because if
That's
you
right.
keep on putting it off, it
Mm-hmm.
just doesn't happen. It just
Yeah.
doesn't.
I would add it's saying no, because I think sometimes what creeps up on us when we say, "Oh, I don't have time," because that's what people will say when you say, "Oh, you gotta make time." "Oh, I just don't have time." We
Yeah.
do have time for the things that we prioritize. And I'm excited now. Every time I say no to something, I think of it as I just said yes to my next book or my
Absolutely.
next
That's
whatever,
that's
you
very
know?
yeah.
And I think we don't say no enough and to other things and say yes to enough to ourselves.
I agree.
Um, there's someone who's curious about your writing process. You mentioned outlining. Do you always outline or?
Yeah, I do. I
Mhm.
kind of just need the roadmap. It's the roadmap that I used when I was prosecuting cases.
Mhm.
When I was getting ready to tell a story, because when you're giving an opening statement or a closing argument, you really are telling a story. The best
Mhm.
trial lawyers are storytellers. I never
Mhm.
lost a case, and I'm proud
Mm.
to say that because I prosecuted child sex crimes. So,
Mm.
and
Mm.
child trafficking. And the way that I was able to be successful in that is that I wrote outlines. Where do I want to go? What is the story of this survivor? Um,
Mhm.
what is the story of the defendant? What did he or she do? And that outline always helped me. And so
Mhm.
for me, I need to be able to see not everything because, like I said before, I go places I didn't expect to go.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it's really important, at least my process, is to outline what is
Mhm.
the idea, what is the world, what
Mhm.
are some of the characters, what does it look like, what are the, what does it look like in my mind's eye,
Yeah.
and put it on paper. Now I am actually, I'm told now, a little bit of a weirdo because I don't type well. When I was
Mhm.
given a choice in college, in high school, to write, to type or take art history, I
Mhm.
took art history.
Okay. So you're like, you type like this.
I did. I kind of regret not taking typing, but I know a lot about artwork.
Mhm.
I love it. So I actually freehand everything. I write everything in a couple of
Mhm.
books. I have them. You can see I have my stuff like this, and so
Mhm.
ideas go in here, things like this go in there, and that's what works for me.
Mhm.
So I put everything down. I used to dictate a lot, but now I just write everything down, and then sometimes I have someone else type it up.
Type it up. Mhm.
That's my process.
And we have time, I think, for one last question. What do you hope readers will take away from Summer on the Bluffs?
Ah, um, it was meant to be aspirational. It's a love letter to Black love,
Mhm.
in all its forms, whether it be marriage, friendship,
Yes.
or mothers and daughters, and fathers and daughters, and sons too. And so I hope people will take away from it that this world exists.
Mhm.
I hope that they will visit the vineyard. I was actually speaking to Senator Warren of Massachusetts, who read the book.
Yay!
And is hoping that people will discover this
Mhm.
part of Massachusetts. And it sounds kind of weird, but I hope more people are encouraged to write their stories.
Yes.
If not their stories, a story, because
Mhm.
we have to be our own griots. And
Mhm.
if I could do it, like I almost feel like anybody can do it. Like
Mm.
I'm not a professional writer. I was a journalism major in
Mhm.
college, and I've been journaling for a long time, and I'm weird, and I create a lot of worlds, and some
Mhm.
of them hit, some of them don't, some of them are bizarre. But they are, I give it to my husband. He's like, nah, that ain't
Keep
it.
that in the drafts, as they say.
Turn into people and swim are not it. He's like, no, no, I don't like it. It's weird. I that was an idea recently,
Mhm.
that I floated to him. But yeah, I'm hoping that people will fall in love with
Mhm.
the history of Oak Bluffs, the history of these three beachfront communities, and Black excellence, and aspire to it, and that we're really not the monolith that we're portrayed as.
That's
That's
right.
that's my goal, my hope, and also to elevate the artists that I write about. The businesses that I write about, the decorators that I write about. I've gotten some criticism, oh, she's just name dropping, and it was intentional. You missed it if that's what
Yeah.
you take away from this.
Yeah.
Um,
I
it's
think people go in with preconceived notions and they
Yeah,
see what they want to see. I
yeah.
really think
It's
that's
not
the
name
case.
dropping. It's
Yeah.
really intentional in terms of
Mhm.
highlighting these
Yeah.
things.
and it's celebratory. Thank you for
Yes.
celebrating us
Thank
in
you.
this wonderful book. And I celebrate you and I thank you for this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. This is just so wonderful. So wonderful.